And very dry, yes.
Well, yeah, I'm not even going to say it. I'm not going to say it.
Quick question. How do you handle Q&A?
People will raise their hands and I give them a shout when they want to ask a question. So easy peasy.
Okay, so you manage that as I'm talking.
Yeah, unless you want to grab them. I mean, if you're in the middle of a thought and say, hey, I think this person's probably got something to go with that. Either way.
All right. I have no problem with letting you manage it because it'll probably be smoother since you've done that before.
Okay. That's why I get paid the mediocre bucks.
Something like that.
A couple minutes we'll get crawling here.
No
Ah,
worries.
house cleaning here. Fine. There's my sign. Go through my sticky notes to clean up for the week's notes. So, okay, today is joining us today. Sorry, I'll start again. Joining us today is Laura Schramm, a strategic executive with more than 30 years of experience leading complex defense, intelligence, and aerospace programs. She currently serves as a senior solutions advisor at General Dynamics Information Technology, where she helps deliver winning strategies and program support for high-level defense initiatives. Over her career, Laura has held leadership roles in program management, operations, and proposal development for organizations like iGov, Honeywell, Aerospace, Bearing Point, and then NIH. She holds an active TSSCI and certifications that include PGMP, PMP, Earned Value Professional, and ITIL. While not a veteran herself, she has spent her entire career working alongside the military community and supporting national security programs. She brings valuable insight into how veterans can translate their skills into civilian careers in defense, contracting, program management, and beyond. Welcome, Laura. Did I manage to hit all the highlights for you?
That was fantastic. I'm going to have to get a copy of the script from you.
Yeah, I did not read that off the top of my head, that's for sure, because that is a lot of stuff you got going on there. So thank you for joining us. So I'll get started right off. So I mean, for vets transitioning to the civilian sector, how do you explain what the defense contracting world looks like? I mean, it's we go hand in hand with them in the military, but our interactions are kind of limited on that side.
So, just to level set, I am here as an individual. I'm not representing my company, I'm not an official speaker. That said, these are my opinions and my
Yeah.
experience. I've got This is my first speaking opportunity, and I've got a little bit of a script that I had put together so that we could um, hopefully transfer some of my knowledge over to you and help you with your job search as you make this transition. I've been helping hundreds to thousands of individuals in the last couple of years trying to help them make that transition smooth. And I've got some lessons learned that I figured would help me share and give you guys some tips and pointers. Is
Go
that
for it.
all right? And then to
Yeah,
transition into questions?
yeah, go for it.
Perfect. So as you're transitioning out, I would suggest that you start with what you want to do. I see a lot of transitioning military taking up internships to gain experience in a field that may or may not have anything to do with what they've done for the last 5 to 15, 20 years. Um, that isn't a bad thing, but be aware that the corporate world tends to hire based on their experience, your quals, the people you know, the things you've done, rather than what you'd like to do. So while you may want to transition out of a maintenance career into a cybersecurity career or a software development career, you're going to have an easier time getting hired based on your past performance. Just like with any company trying to get hired by the government, the things you know, the relationships you have, and what you can bring to the organization is going to mean more than where you want to be in the future. If your internship doesn't come with a guaranteed position for you at the end of it, then don't ignore that experience. Go ahead and look at the private sector positions that are equivalent to your MOS. The government hires contractors to do most of the same work. So even though you may hate what you are doing, you've had enough of it, what have you, it's a whole lot easier once you're employed by a company to transition to a new career with their resources than it is to get hired out of the chute without that past performance. Um, Next, think about who you want to work for. Small businesses are often niche and they have very specific things that they're hired to do. They can often pay better. You have more control of what is done and how it's done. But large companies have more positions in more locations and hire more generalist type individuals. In the contractor world, job security revolves around the length of the contract you're on and the other positions your company might have available. This means a small business that loses a recompete may no longer have a role for you. A large business might lose a contract, might be able to move you to another contract. Based on my experience when I worked for iGov Technologies, which is a small business located in Tampa, our livelihood revolved around performing well on the work we had and always, always, always working on new proposals, trying to win new business. When we didn't win, there were reductions in force. When something with different skill set requirements was won, there was also a reduction in force when the existing contract ended, and we hired folks who fit the new roles. Working within General Dynamics, we always have hundreds to almost 1,000 positions open at any given point in time. There's stability if you're willing to move where the work is. Since I've been with GDIT, I've moved 4 times in just under 5 years. With those moves came job growth, salary increases, but as you all know, moving is a hassle and no one enjoys it. With large companies, you can also try more things. We've got an amazing volume of training and education benefits that if you hate what you're doing, you can move into something else that's paid for by the company. Whether it's the certification, whether it's a formal degree, whether it's just ad hoc training on your own time. Large businesses have the funds to support you with that, and they have all of the positions to move you into them once you've got the qualifications the contract requires. So think about where you want to work in terms of large versus small business. Think about what you want to do. Keep in mind what you've done, and that's where you're going to get hired most easily. The next thing that matters, as I've done job searches myself, is where you want to work. You'll need to do some research if that's the most important thing to you about what companies work there and what the business is that is operated out of that location. Things in Tampa are often CENTCOM, SOCOM related. Things in Colorado are often Space Force or Intel. There are specific types of contracts in different locations. So a good understanding of what work is being done where you want to be will help you tailor your search. You'll find that as you're looking for positions in specific locations, some companies will have 4 or 5 different companies with the same job openings. This is usually a good pointer or a good identifier of new business where companies are competing for the same work, and only one company is going to win that. So if you see that, know that those positions probably will get contingent offers at best, and it could be up to a year before you actually start work after all of the win releases are made and the protests are completed. If you want to find something immediate, then you need to try and find positions that are hiring right then and there. If you're transitioning, you may have a 3 or 4 month gap or window where you're looking. That gives you a little more flexibility to look at those proposal positions. And you have a little bit of an advantage over others who are already in the industry and looking because you have that gap. You have that leeway to go ahead and accept a position that isn't an immediate start. One final type of position you'll find are called jump ball or best athlete positions. This is on contracts that already exist. They're trying to fill a position with either the best qualified person or the least expensive person. And the contract holder will have subcontractors out looking to fill those positions. That is a tough role to fill unless you're willing to accept the lower salary, because only the least expensive person is going to get hired into that role. Some quick advice based on what I've seen. To recap, it matters less what you want to do than what you have experience doing. Apply for the positions that you have the past performance for. Next is keep your resumes long. Some companies do AI-driven keyword searches. Others won't even look at your application unless the tool tells them you're a fit. I've been told GDIT doesn't use AI, but because I'm not in a hiring manager or a recruiting role, I take it on faith that that's the case. Some people take job requisitions and pass them through an AI tool. They get keywords out of that, and then they put them in tiny white font at the bottom of their resumes. What that does is if an AI is scrubbing for who's the best qualified person for a position, it sees all of those words that a recruiter isn't going to see because they're clear, they're invisible. And then it'll put your resume in front of them. Whatever your approach, every application that you put in needs to be tailored to the job rec. Find the keywords, find the skills and the qualifications they're looking for, and make it crystal clear so that a person reviewing it makes it impossible for them to miss. There's a lot of very quick declines on people's applications. And if that's because somebody missed what you were writing and you think that you're a good fit, there's often the case where you can reapply to those positions, making your qualifications a little more clear. If you're cleared, retaining your clearance needs to be a priority over getting your dream job. Companies looking for cleared people pay higher salaries to folks with clearances. And if you've got a higher clearance, if you've got a top secret and a role only requires a secret, apply for it anyway. The companies will typically keep your top secret clearance, even if the position only requires the secret, because clearances cost money. They make you more valuable. Once you lose your clearance, very, very few companies will pay the cost and take the time needed for you to get one back. That said, getting an interim secret clearance can be pretty quick. So if you used to have a clearance and don't any longer, don't rule out applying to positions that have requirements for lower level clearances. Consider what you're telling your potential employers. On your LinkedIn profile, your favorite sports team, your favorite video game, political preferences, religion, family relations, they're not relevant. Recruiters want to know what certifications you have, what experience you have, degrees, clearances, and who you know. Keep the rest for. Also consider what information you provide. If you've got an email address that you want them to contact you on, that's something like lovetoeat@gmail.com, you may want to rethink that. That's a fairly benign one compared to some that I've seen. Just present yourself professionally. Touching on AI again, I've seen a lot of advice for people to use it or not to use it. Personal preference, AI gets smarter every day. I would use it to review your resume. Um, Let it make change recommendations and review what it gives you in terms of advice. It can influence how you present your experience for specific positions in a way that I've found definitely beneficial. Whether you're just starting a career or whether you've been in the business for 20 years, there are ways that it will advise you to present yourself that can be beneficial. Just don't accept what it says off the bat, because AI will definitely lie about what you can and can't do and have done. Um, it's a tool. You can use it to shoot yourself in the foot, or you can use it to make yourself dinner. Just use it wisely. Another question I've gotten is on cover letters. I've never been a big fan of cover letters, but every recruiter is different. If you're applying for a position that requires more intangible skills than tangible, fewer certifications and more who you know or where you've been, I would use a cover letter, because the standard questions that you're answering on application websites and the things you put in resumes won't necessarily scratch that itch for the hiring manager. So intangible qualifications, I would put into a cover letter. Certifications, degrees, that kind of thing, I would keep it in a resume. Last thing, finding positions. Job boards are painful. Every company has a different way to describe a position, has a different title, and even within companies, they'll call positions different things. Some contracts, the government likes to see specific titles for that may have absolutely no relation to what you're actually doing. So once you have an idea of who you want to work for, I would do a broader search, whether it's based on location, whether it's based on quote unquote cybersecurity or information security or incident management, or there's a whole lot of ways to describe the different position duties that you're not just going to get from a title. So I would say keep your broad search or your job search pretty broad, rather than looking for, I want to be a program manager and I want to do it in Brazil. I would start with what companies are working there, go to their specific job websites, and then search on Brazil. And then if you can narrow it down by qualifications, just looking by title isn't going to get you what you're looking for, I've found. The way I've been helping my connections on LinkedIn is General Dynamics puts out a Excel workbook of all of their open positions, whether they're for proposals, whether they're direct hires, whether they're indirect positions. And then I go ahead and I publish that at least weekly on LinkedIn to make it easier for people to find their positions within the company. I haven't seen a single other person at another company doing that, but it's given me a wider perspective of just how varying the titles can be. 3 recruiters could describe the position 3 different ways. And even for me, it makes it hard to figure out what a position is actually doing without going into the details of every single one of them. With all the job rifts lately and the political climate, finding a job right now is harder than normal. Folks with years of experience are being let go, and they're going to be your competition. Think about what differentiates you and write to that as you apply. Whether it's your clearance, the organizations you've worked with, the relationships you've got, or the specialized experience with a specific weapon system. Think about what makes you different, because that's what gets you hired. The rest of the applicants might not have that or know what you know. A final piece of advice is, I know the last speaker mentioned entrepreneurships as a route to take as you leave. It's very, very appealing to be your own, at least in the upfront period. And the statistics show the success rate isn't great. So be aware if you decide to go the entrepreneurship route, you may lose everything you invest. You may succeed wonderfully. The number of people who succeed wonderfully are significantly smaller than the number of people who lose everything they invest. And that's at a macro level, all of the knowledge I've got to share. I would be happy to answer questions on anything that I've said or any other topics that you have. Ernest, do you want to unmute Timothy?
Yeah, that would be pretty helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I can unmute. I just wasn't sure if you saw my hand. So
No, go ahead. Go ahead,
tra
Timothy.
translating skills into what the civilian sector can take. Uh, I'm in special operations, so I got paid to play for the majority of my career. Like I got to go diving, jump out of planes, go rappelling, do all these fun things. Those certifications don't translate into too many jobs that will pay the bills, if you know what I mean. But the intangibles that are related to that, with the risk management, the supervision, the mission planning, all those detailed integrations, those aren't certifications, but they do matter. How do you translate that uh, so that the company understands what you got to offer? And maybe that's a better question. I know a few of my coworkers that work for General Dynamics, so I could probably ask them that a little better of how they translated it, but figured I would ask that for the broader group.
Sure. So I've worked on a lot of different contracts, and what you are paid to play with as a military employee, we are paid to build. So if you used any kind of equipment to support those play activities, there's a company out there that made it and sustains it and trains on it. Your knowledge of that isn't something I would just consider irrelevant. It's unique to you, it's unique to what you did, and someone out there is looking for it. You just need to find the right company. Um, Specifically with diving, I know there's a lot of commercial sector positions where there's underwater welders that do the diving. Um, there, it's hard to say specifically what you were doing while you were diving in this forum, but there is definitely relevancy. So if you want to reach out to me separately, I more than welcome it, and I can help coach you a little bit more on that.
Yeah, and I guess to add a little more, so I'm in Tampa right now, and we're looking to stay in Tampa. I'm originally from Tampa, so that limits us a little bit because we're not trying to move right now because of the family dynamics and all
Lots
that
of
kind of
companies there.
stuff. And there are plenty of job opportunities, possibly with CENTCOM, SOCOM, SOCCENT, if I stay in the DoD contracting world, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. I'm still trying to I've narrowed it down to a few, things between program management, operations, and training facilitation, which are all huge buckets within themselves, but I've at least whittled it down to that. So,
Mhm. And then I've worked with people who worked an engineering position during the day, purchased a boat, and their goal was to retire from the engineering position and go lead dive trips in the Keys. So there is a range of opportunity available to you.
thank you.
So it actually works with my question pretty well. I mean, what roles are most successful for transitioning service members, like in defense, aerospace, or intelligence organizations? What are the big ones you see for folks like him, where hey, here's a pretty good fit you probably hadn't thought of?
So I'm working for an IT company. So what I see right now are a lot of networks and systems engineering positions. That said, AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, is huge. It's growing. And that is simply data analysis in many cases. It is training the machines to know what you know. There are a lot of different roles out there. Um, just because there are only a handful of openings for something specific that you have experience with doesn't mean that you aren't going to get one of those positions, because your skill sets and your past is unique to you, and you could be exactly what they're looking for.
Okay, so, I mean, from your perspective, what differentiates a qualified candidate from a standout candidate when you're just looking at paper?
Contracting companies are operating off of the requirements the government hands them. That's usually a specific number of years of experience. That is specific certifications that meet the 8170 or um, I think the old one was 8530 or something like that. We don't necessarily dictate the terms. And so before transitioning out, understanding what the equivalent role is and what the requirements the government typically asks for those roles is going to help you the most. As you transition, you've got a window of opportunity to do that research and to potentially gain the certifications or the training or what have you that a role may require. I would use this time to try and figure out, and there are all kinds of resources that can help you with that, um, exactly what you're going to need to be a standout candidate. Again, your recent military service and the relationships you're bringing with you are going to be very valuable to the company that hires you. It isn't just the tangibles like those certifications and degrees, but we can't hire outside of the contract requirements. So just fill in the gaps that you might have, and then you're the standout candidate.
Makes sense. So I got a question from the comments from Ryan Clark. I had a TSSCI when I worked in IT. When I came out to recruiting, the job only required a secret, so they wouldn't pay for my TSSCI to be updated. I spoke with my clearance manager, and he told me it should be fairly easy to get it back since I've been maintaining my secret. Now, when I apply to IT jobs at GDIT, they all require TSSCI, and I keep falling short. And I don't know if it's due to the clearance or not. Is there any way I could portray that to a recruiter or hiring manager to get a look at it?
Your best bet is to apply to the positions that meet your current clearance. Then, once you're hired, the company will work on transitioning and updating. The reason being, the positions they need to fill quickly. They're losing money for every day there's an open position. So if it takes 3 months for background investigations and everything else to happen to go from secret back up to top secret, that's money that they're spending that they're not recovering, and that's a customer that is not getting served during that period. If you get hired in at the secret level, then returning you to the top secret level while you're working full time for the customer that requires only the secret is a lot easier.
Yeah, it makes financial sense to them because they don't want to take a risk on somebody coming in the door, dropping the money and finding it not to be a fit as well, right?
That too.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely heard that story more than once. So given the kind of work that you've done over the years, what advice would you give to the folks entering programs that are multinational or spread across several agencies? Like
So,
what should they be aware of? The pitfalls, the benefits?
so my first positions within GDIT were overseas, and that was my first experience working overseas. Um, the salaries you're going to be offered for those positions may look much lower than you were expecting, but you've got the HOLA, the COLA, the dependent benefits. There's a lot of adders that bring your salary back up to where you would expect it to be, if not higher. A lot of people, once they've started working overseas, never want to come back because of those benefits, including the tax breaks. Um, it's pretty easy from my experience working with European countries to live in Europe and to not have a translation problem, not have schooling issues. Um, I haven't been to SWA, so I don't know what it's like there. But I would recommend if you haven't worked overseas and you have an interest in doing so, absolutely. It's a experience of a lifetime, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Yeah, the folks that I met working aircraft in SWA, it was 25 years ago. They were thrilled because they were making crazy money, not paying taxes. And I remember one particular example, a guy I spoke with, he was just an F-18 crew chief. And he's
Yep.
like, yeah, my house is paid for in Tennessee. It's, $350,000 mortgage. It's all set. And I was like, in 2000, a $350,000 house in Tennessee? I was like, what, do you got a mansion on 50 acres or something? So yeah, if you can do that, because he's like, yeah, I'm on 6 months, I'm off 6 months. There's definitely some benefits to that, especially if you don't have to worry about transplanting kids in the
So
family.
within my company, I've found hiring managers complain a fair amount about how difficult it is to recruit for overseas positions, which surprised me because I would have thought everyone was as adventurous as I was and would love to work overseas. Turns out that's not the case. Um, that said, when you decide to come back to the States, you lose those perks. And so you have gotten used to a certain salary and standard of living that you may not achieve once you're back here without changing positions and coming to specific arrangements with your company or the company that you transfer to.
Could you put like a general dollar amount on the difference there? Just to kind of help the folks imagine it.
It's going to be specific to your situation. It's hard, but when you get hired for the overseas position, say you're making 80,000. When you come back, you're used to 140,000, 150,000 in terms of cash that you get, and you're not going to get that any longer. You're back down to the 80, 85, maybe 90,000 range.
It's that big of a difference. It's like BH for the military, it sounds like.
Yeah.
John, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Hi, Laura. Great to connect with you again. I did want to ask, kind of from your perspective, can you kind of let us know, like, what does the job market like feel like for the past few months? And then just kind of like leveraging your experience, maybe just kind of like paint the path of what it may look like, 2 or 3 months down the road.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but um, in the last year, I would say people are finding positions within 3 to 4 months. Uh, the number of folks right now looking for work, though, is significantly higher. All of the RIFs and the Doge activities have flooded the job market with people looking for work. The number of openings we have is probably at least a third smaller simply because of the fill rates right now. Whether that continues or not, I don't know. But I would plan on it taking at least 3 to 4 months to find a full-time position.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
So, I mean, with that massive influx, I mean, what do you think that veterans can do to position themselves for long-term success with that more competitive market with those government agencies who already have their clearances and some sort of experience? Is there anything these folks should prepare for to compete?
Recency. So the folks who are being let go have been in the job in the civilian world for a lot longer. What they don't have is all of your current relationships with different government organizations, the people who are in charge with them, the policies and processes and tools that you're using to get the work done today. The longer you're in the commercial sector, the more you lose that recency, you lose that awareness. Even if you're working side by side with the military personnel doing the work, you're not doing it yourself. So there's always information that you're not going to have because you're not hands on. whether it's how the latest software works or whether it's how the latest handheld device is operating or even UAV. You're going to have the knowledge that we don't have because you're right there doing it. Now, 6 months from now, a year from now, that recency is lost. So take something that you're offered, even if it's not your ideal position, and then work to improve that position rather than waiting for the ideal to come around.
So, I mean, are there any professional organizations or industry groups that these folks should consider joining on the defense industry side to expand that network, to learn these things, to find the right people?
Since I'm not a recruiter and I'm not a hiring manager, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do know there's the SkillBridge opportunities, and there are a lot of different veterans organizations that try to help find positions, but I don't have like a list of them. It's not something that I've needed in the past.
Got it. So this would be my last question. I mean, if you could give one piece of advice to vets considering a career in defense contracting or program management, what, digging deep into the sage knowledge, what would it be?
Well, I've given a lot of advice.
Yeah.
I would say that the thing that always makes me feel bad for people, and it's entirely a personal response, is when I see cleared military take a non-cleared position out there. I've seen folks go from master sergeant to working in a car wash or working at Walmart or things like that. And I feel that is heartbreaking because you've got all of this knowledge and expertise and experience, and it just gets wasted. Um, it may be your dream job. You may not want to work hard, and it might be exactly what you're looking for to not have to think about um, think about what it is that you need to do tomorrow. Um, but from my perspective, knowledge lost and knowledge wasted hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. The car wash thing. It's just somebody's like, hey, the car wash at the Pentagon would make some
I
big money though.
laughed.
That one.
Yeah.
Open up a touch-free car wash outside of the Pentagon, you're gonna print money. Um, that was the last of it I got. Unless anybody else has any questions, I just ask you for your closing thoughts, advice, anything like that.
Um, I think there's a limitless number of questions, and you may not know what to ask until you've actually started your job search and applications. I would say reach out to me anytime you need to, connect with me on LinkedIn, and if there are ways I can help, I'll be happy to.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely I shared your LinkedIn, so hopefully you'll get some connections on there, and definitely gonna be some folks reaching out to you to pick your brain. So I want to thank you very much for. Oh, hang on, Timothy, go ahead.
Yeah, just saw one of the comments and figured I'd ask the question. I think you might have stepped off, but I kind of have the same question. I see a lot of jobs that are TSSCI with poly. Uh, and like I have a clearance, I don't have a poly, but it seems like they're over classifying or over like asking for that. It just so many jobs. Like I read the description, I'm like, why does that job need a poly? Do you feel like they're doing that because they have a specific person that they're waiting for almost to apply for that?
No. So what's driving that is contract requirements. The government will tell them that they must have a TSSCI with poly for that position, and we can't hire anyone without that, which means either we find the perfect candidate with it or as perfect as we can, and fill it immediately, or it just is vacant. What I mentioned earlier is if there's a perfect position out there that you don't have the clearance for, apply for positions that you do have the clearance for. And once you've been hired, then try to transfer over into the other position so that the company has time to increase your clearance and be able to move you. We don't control those requirements. We would love it if it were easier to get people filling those positions. My poly's expired and I haven't been in a role that's needed it recently. So I have no no anticipation of getting it back at this point in time. But if I'm in a position that only requires a secret, I've got my top secret. The company's going to maintain the top secret so that if I ever need to move into another position that does require the top secret, it's there.
Yeah, that
Makes
represents
sense.
it represents a pretty good cost savings for them and hedging their future bets too.
And time saved.
Yeah, how long do you usually see the uptick take for like a TS to TS of poly?
I haven't looked at that one recently, but I know the difference going between secret and TS can be 4 to 6 months.
Oof. Yeah,
Yeah. Plus cost. It's like 30 grand.
yeah, and the time is probably the bigger factor in that for, well, yeah, I mean, the time is the bigger factor for a large company like General Dynamics, the Boeings, the Lockheeds. It's not the money. But for the smaller companies, it's probably the money. um, Again, thank you, Laura. Very much appreciate it. So Laura Schramm coming out from GDIT, General Dynamics Information Technology, come out and drop some wisdom. I put her link in the chat earlier, so definitely go out, link up with her. She said, if you got questions, fire them away. I know she's very receptive and very helpful. So I wanted to thank you for coming out with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am.